Hello everyone, my name's Miranda. Welcome back to Pages and Stages. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a load of books that I read when I was a small child, that I think have informed the way I read now, the way I enjoy things now, and the way that I am, my personality. So essentially this is Miranda's starter pack. All you need to make this is these books and a blank child of your choosing. Is that too dark? Should I cut that out? These aren't all the books that I read as a kid. God knows, I can't remember most of them. They're also not necessarily all of my favourites. There were lots of other ones that I loved, but these were ones that specifically I think I kind of found roots of myself in them. If we get too psychoanalytical about it, which we will. So first off, an absolute classic and one of my mum's books is Ballet Shoes by Noel Straetfield. We have about 3 copies of this in our house because it's very well loved. I was obsessed with this when I was a kid. This is probably one of my absolute all-time favourite childhood books. I can't tell you how many times I reread this. This is about a family of girls found by Great Uncle Matthew, or Gum as he is known by them, and he takes them home to be part of his, well, it sounds weird, but he finds them on his fossil collecting expeditions. So he takes them home and kind of adds them to his collection and calls them his fossils. And basically it's about these 3 girls. As they grow up, they start theatre school and dance classes with varying degrees of enthusiasm and skill, and it basically just follows them growing up together, all the kind of the shows that they do, the kind of family dynamics that they have. It's just the loveliest book, and all the kind of behind the scenes making theatre and creating theatre I think was really exciting to me as a kid and still is now. Like, I love reading about that kind of thing, and the kind of magic of making something with people, and I think that kind of came from this. Also now, this sort of book where there's not much overarching plot but you just follow a group of characters and get to know them really well, that is now one of my absolute favourite kinds of book to read. So yeah, I love Ballet Shoes. Also, it's got the cutest little illustrations in it which are adorable, and I love it. I love it so much, my whole heart. Another stagey book and another one of my mum's childhood favourites is The Swish of the Curtain by Pamela Brown. Also, can we just appreciate this like 80s TV tie-in cover? Look at those outfits, they're so good. Yeah, this is about a group of kids who essentially set up their own theatre in a little shed near where they live, and they make their own shows, and that's it really. It just fills my little backstage babe heart with joy and love, and I think it perfectly captures the kind of just the magic of kind of having creative connection with people and making things together, and I love it. It's really cute. Also the way that they like transform the like shed essentially into this theatre, it kind of goes through all of it, like, you know, repainting and putting up curtains, and like, it's just lovely. I love it. Another absolute classic is 101 Dalmatians. I couldn't actually find the copy of this that I read, which was again my mum's copy, but I found this instead, which is the Starlight Barking, which is the what's the word? Sequel. Yeah, this is a really lovely book as well, but I don't remember it so well. I credit this book entirely with making me love gothic houses and cool villains, because like the house that all the puppies are kept in, terrifying. Absolutely terrifying, amazing, iconic, I love it. Also, Cruella de Vil is a fucking icon, and I think one of the most creative and iconic villains ever created. Obviously a lot of the visual kind of branding stuff comes from the films, but that was all created in the book, like her black and white hair, and her kind of black and white hair. I can't think of anything else. She's so distinctive but mysterious. Like the black and white hair, you don't know where it's come from, why it's like that. The fact that she is obsessed with fire and everything being hot and peppery, which is amazing. I mean, obviously it's a kind of devil like illusion, but I think as a kid it feels so kind of like menacing, but also you're not quite sure where the menace is coming from. So like even at the beginning and all the way throughout, even before you know that she is, you know, she wants to kill puppies, which is a pretty bad thing to do, but you know, like the way that she is just is unsettling anyway, which I think is a mark of an amazing villain. There are so many images that I remember really vividly from this, like Cruella de Vil standing on top of her car kind of applauding this burning village, and also all the food in her house being the wrong colours and tasting of pepper. Like I think the fish is green and the ice cream is black, like that kind of stuff. It's so weird and unsettling, but you can't really pinpoint why, and I think that is what makes a great villain, being distinctive, mysterious and really creepy. Anyway, this is also a great book about dogs. I love it, but I think Cruella de Vil was like the OG. Oh my god, I'm obsessed with this villain for me, because I love a villain, I really do. Next is Matilda by Roald Dahl. I mean, obviously I wouldn't be like, you know, a book obsessed little girl if I hadn't read Matilda. Like she's the blueprint. But also, I mean, I loved lots of Roald Dahl's books when I was a kid. Like the BFG was another absolute favourite. I remember reading the bit where he's like, you know, oh, you're only half your age because you sleep for like half of the time you're actually alive. I remember that messing me up, like existential crisis, spiralling thoughts at age 6 or whatever. And also things like George's Marvellous Medicine, absolute classic, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Matilda obviously like fueled my love of reading and made that kind of like, you know, she's the kind of thing that you aspire to be. And I also loved the magic and how it's really about kids sticking up to adults that are shitty to them. I love that. I love that that's the main kind of message of the story. I also remember absolutely loving The Witches, and I know this has got quite a lot of attention recently because of the adaptation, but I think what I loved about it was the fact that it is kind of, it's set in our real world, but there is something very much distinctly kind of other about it. And I love that kind of, I mean, we know now that I love books that kind of straddle like fantasy and reality, and also just the general creepiness of it. Like what sticks with me especially from this book is the stories at the beginning, where it describes lots of different ways that children have been got by witches. Like I think one gets kind of turned into a painting that then ages as she would have aged, and I think one gets turned into a statue. I don't know, there's loads, but I just remember them being incredibly disturbing, but kind of amazingly creative. The painting keeps moving, so she keeps moving in the painting, she's in different positions, and then she ages. It's so good. That kind of story where you don't know how something's happened, but it's a very kind of distinctive idea that's incredibly creepy, and it's creepy because you don't know what's happening. I love that, and that, I think that's the kind of love in my reading that I still enjoy that came from this book. The next ones are quite underrated. Like they're not like classic ones I hear people talk about all the time. First one is Halo by Zizou. This, oh my god, I love this book so much. This was one of my absolute favourites. I read this all the time. I really want to do a reread soon, because I mean, I'm also kind of scared because I'm like, what if it doesn't hold up? What if it's not as good as I remember? This is based in ancient Greece, and it follows a girl who is found sort of, I think she washes up on a beach and is found by a family of centaurs and is raised by centaurs, which is an amazing premise to start with, but then it kind of follows her as she grows up and then goes to look for her human family. I have such vivid memories of this book and how beautifully things were described, like the caves and sea where the centaurs live, and the kind of mountains and rivers of Greece. It's beautiful. It's just a wonderful story with so much adventure and character, and I love it so much. And I think it really boosted my love for ancient myths and history generally, which also was encouraged by Percy Jackson, which I came to later. But yeah, this was kind of the genesis of that. And it also, I think, really informed my love of character-based stories of women kind of growing up and finding themselves. Yeah. Oh, I love this book so much. It's so good. There's so much to it. There's so much that happens. It's amazing. Okay, another absolute staple. Horrible Histories, obviously. I mean, I had loads of these. Like, these are some of my favourites. Slimy Stuarts, Incredible Incas, and Villainous Victorians. But yeah, I just... What needs to be said? I love the TV show as well, but like, I think these I came to originally, and they were what really showed me how fun and cool and like applicable to today history can be. I would love to write stuff like this, stuff that is educational but kind of inspires children's curiosity at the same time. Like, my fave. I don't think I would be doing a history degree if it wasn't for Horrible Histories, you know? Thanks, Terry Deary. You informed my entire personality. Next, more historical fiction, The Roman Mysteries by Caroline Lawrence. This is a massive series. There are like 18 books, and I read them all, apart from the penultimate one, because I didn't realise it existed until after I'd read the last one, and I was like, I can't go back and read the one before the last one. Anyway, it's a whole thing. Also, this matches my eyeshadow. Amazing. These were my shit. They are so good. They follow a group of kids in ancient Rome who solve mysteries. Like, what more could you want? It's brilliant. This is what made my love of historical fiction come to life. Yeah, amazing characters, great stories. It's really tense and like scary at times. Impeccable. Impeccable. Just realised I was holding up the second one for that whole time instead of the first. Here are the first two. They're great. If you have kids you want to indoctrinate into being a history nerd, those books, those ones. Another massive series is this set of Shakespeare stories retold by Andrew Matthews and illustrated by Tony Ross. Yeah, I had a load of these. I'm actually missing one, which is Hamlet, which was one of my favourites. These were amazing. I would not love Shakespeare now if I had not read these as a kid. I just wouldn't. They are retellings of Shakespeare's most famous plays, but told in an accessible way for kids and also illustrated. And I'm so glad that they exist, because reading these made studying Shakespeare later on so much easier and so much more enjoyable, because I could focus on like the actual language and stuff rather than trying to figure out what the fuck was going on, because I was already familiar with what was happening from these. I think my favourites were The Tempest, Twelfth Night, Macbeth, and Richard III, and also Hamlet, which I have lost, which is a tragedy. But yeah, I love them all. They were all excellent. And these books are what kind of sparked the idea for this video, because I genuinely don't think that I would be me if I had not read those. Next is Hetty Feather by Jacqueline Wilson. I was obsessed with Jacqueline Wilson as a kid, like so obsessed. She was one of my favourite authors, and this was one of my favourite books by her because it was her historical fiction. This is set in the Victorian era. It's about a kind of headstrong foundling who wants to join the circus. Amazing. But what I loved about her books were how they dealt with like real life issues and real life problems. She dealt with stuff like divorce, abusive families, grief, bullying, like all kinds of things. Yeah, her books really opened my eyes to a whole load of different real life situations, and I think it's where my love of reading about like serious issues and characters that feel real and are going through some pretty horrible things, I think that's where it comes from, is good old JW. Next is The Lady Grace Mysteries. This is the first one, Assassin. These were the blueprint of historical fiction for me. I was always trying to find things that lived up to this, because this is basically about a girl who is a maid of honour in Elizabeth I's court, and essentially she solves mysteries and murders and shit. Can you tell I had a type when I was a kid? I liked historical mysteries, and these were the shit. I loved the Tudor London setting. I mean, I love London now, so who knows? And also like the fictionalization of real people and real events, just making history accessible to people. Loved it. There were quite a lot of these as well, but these are the first three: Assassin, Betrayal and Conspiracy, and I read these so much. Next is a book that blew my little 8-year-old mind. It's Girls Are Best by Sandy Toksvig. This has on the blurb, it says, why is it his story not her story, which is obviously like a thing now, but when I was 8 and I read that, this is a book aimed at young girls about a load of really cool historical women, essentially. I know that is like a genre now, kind of, I mean, yeah, a few years ago there was like the whole goodnight stories for rebel girls and things like that, and that kind of sparked this whole thing, but Sandy did it first, okay? My gal Sandy Toksvig, love her. This is set up in a really amazing, accessible way with like illustrations and photos, and lots of kind of facts and engaging stories. It was an amazing supplement to horrible histories and kind of learning normal history that's, you know, was really male-centred. This is really like Eurocentric and Western-centric, but it really sparked my interest in, I mean, history generally, but especially like women's history and gender history and marginalised people's history. I love it. Lastly, the 13 Treasures series by Michelle Harrison. This was a trilogy, so this was the first one, then you had 13 Curses and 13 Secrets, and I love these so much, they're so good. This is about a girl who can see fairies, and because of this she has kind of like guardian fairies who make sure that she isn't telling anyone about being able to see them, except they're assholes and they mess her around and make her life worse. These are so full of like magic and mystery and creepiness, and I think they would make an amazing series of films, because like the visual like images that are in here are so good. Like there's an old house, there's like a forest with loads of fairies in it and you can go and get like trapped by the fairies. There's like, this is about like they have to find a load of charms that kind of will save people. I can't remember, but I would love a film of this. I know it was published in like 2009, but can we get it? And again, these really made me love books that are centred in reality but have a really kind of creepy, magical element to them, and I love them so much. Anyway, that's all the books I wanted to talk about today. Obviously there are loads more, because once a book nerd, always a book nerd, am I right? I mean, not necessarily. You can transfer in and out of book nerdness as much as you like. But yeah, obviously there were lots of others that I loved, like I said, Percy Jackson, obviously Harry Potter, and Narnia and Twilight. These are just ones that I think specifically relate to my tastes and passions now. I had so much fun thinking about these books and kind of how they relate to who I am now, and yeah, I love it. I mean, if we want to make this a tag, do it. Childhood books that make me me. That's the tag now. I'm tagging you. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will see you soon.